SAUTI on Africa Headline, Decoding the Mind of Mr. Akinwumi Adesina, a strategic vision for Africa's sustainable transformation. Akinwumi Ayodeji Adesina, a prominent Nigerian economist and president of the African Development Bank, AfDB, since 2015, stands as one of the most influential leaders in Africa's economic transformation. Globally recognized for his pragmatic and ambitious approach, Adesina believes in Africa's untapped potential and is committed to leading it into an era of self-sufficiency and sustainable prosperity. His High Five initiative, comprising 5 strategic priorities, reflects a vision for Africa to achieve sustainable, independent growth, harnessing the continent's geographical, demographic, and natural resources advantages. Under Adesina's leadership, the AfDB has achieved tangible, measurable results that have positively impacted millions of Africans. Since the launch of the High Five, the bank reports it has provided electricity to 21 million people, improved food security for 76 million, granted access to financing for 18 million, and created 10 million jobs. These figures are a glimpse into the transformative impact Adesina's initiative is bringing to Africa, the High Five and the vision for a transformed future in Africa. What is the High Five of Mr. Akinwumi Adesina? The High Five is a development framework by the African Development Bank, AfDB, that focuses on 5 strategic goals to drive Africa's socio-economic transformation. These goals include 1. Light up and power Africa, expanding access to electricity. 2. Feed Africa, boosting agriculture to enhance food security. 3. Industrialize Africa, promoting industrial growth to create jobs and diversify economies. 4. Integrate Africa, improving regional connectivity and trade. And 5. Improve the quality of life for the people of Africa, investing in health, education, and social services. This framework addresses key barriers to growth and aims to foster sustainable, inclusive development across the continent. 1. Light up and power. Africa. Approximately 600 million Africans, nearly half of the continent's population, still lack access to electricity. For Adesina, addressing this gap is essential for social, economic, and educational development, particularly in rural areas. The Light Up and Power Africa plan aims not only to meet this demand, but also to establish Africa as a global renewable energy hub. The AfDB's goal is to provide clean energy access to 75 million Africans by 2025. Adesina envisions a sustainable electrification model based on solar and wind energy, leveraging Africa's vast natural resources. India, which has made significant strides in reducing its energy deficit in just a decade by investing in renewables, serves as a comparative model, one Adesina seeks to replicate in Africa in a locally adapted way. 2. Feed Africa. Africa currently spends around $35 billion annually on food imports, a figure that could rise to $110 billion by 2025 if current trends continue. Adesina sees agriculture as a means to transform the continent from a food importer to an exporter. He believes that with modern, sustainable agricultural practices, Africa can not only meet its own needs, but also become a major global player in the food market. The agricultural development of Latin America, which increased productivity through investments in technology and agricultural infrastructure, serves as an example. With a goal to secure food for 150 million Africans by 2025, Adesina's plan aims to transform African agriculture to compete globally. 3. Industrialize Africa. Africa's GDP, estimated at around $2.6 trillion in 2024, is still heavily dependent on raw material exports, making the continent vulnerable to global commodity price fluctuations. For Adesina, industrialization is key to adding value to African resources and reducing this dependency. The goal is to invest $3.5 billion annually in industrialization to create a robust manufacturing sector, increase the added value of goods, and generate jobs, elevating the standard of living. China's rapid industrial expansion within a few decades shows the viability of this model, adapted to Africa's unique circumstances. 4. Integrate Africa. Despite its wealth, intra-African trade accounts for only about 16% of the continent's total trade, whereas in the European Union, this figure exceeds 60%. Economic integration is a priority for Adesina, with the AfDB supporting the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, to transform Africa into a unified market. Adesina's goal is to reduce trade barriers and increase cooperation between African countries, creating local value chains and reducing external dependencies. Economic integration could save billions on imports and create a more resilient and competitive economy. 5. Improve the quality of life for Africans. Social well-being is the last of the high five, addressing health, education, and basic infrastructure. More than 50% of Africa's population lacks adequate access to healthcare, and 30 million school-aged children are out of school. For Adesina, economic growth is only sustainable when accompanied by real improvements in people's lives. Inspired by Southeast Asia's social progress over recent decades, Adesina aims to invest in infrastructure and social services to raise the quality of life across Africa. The AfDB's goal is to impact the lives of at least 160 million people by 2025. Adesina's vision for an independent and sustainable Africa, Akinwumi. Adesina embodies a new generation of African leaders who not only understand the need for transformation, but also deeply believe in Africa's ability to chart its own path to development. In a rapidly changing global landscape where emerging economies are gaining more relevance, Adesina's vision for Africa is grounded in self-sufficiency and global leadership. The high five are more than goals. They represent a strategic plan to reduce import dependence, increase global competitiveness, and ensure that development reaches every level of African society. Adesina is challenging the continent to reimagine its future, where a strong internal market, modern infrastructure, and a skilled workforce make Africa a model for sustainable growth. His plan draws on lessons from other developing economies, tailored to Africa's unique potential. The success of the High Five not only holds the promise of a new era of growth for Africa, but also serves as a blueprint for other developing nations seeking sustainable and inclusive transformation. Deciphering Adesina's mind reveals a strategic vision rooted in the desire to see Africa independent, self-sufficient, and positioned as a global powerhouse. Adesina envisions the High Five as more than a strategic framework. He sees it as a foundational doctrine that should shape the future of Africa. By integrating these principles, lighting up and powering Africa, feeding Africa, industrializing Africa, integrating Africa, and improving the quality of life into educational systems, Adesina aims to cultivate a generation of young Africans with a deep understanding of self-sufficiency, economic resilience, and sustainable growth. His idea goes beyond simple economic instruction, proposing a comprehensive commitment to embedding this vision in Africa's educational curricula from secondary school onward. This, he believes, is essential for fostering a culture of civic responsibility and an enduring dedication to the continent's progress. To further solidify this vision, Adesina advocates for enshrining the High Five objectives within African constitutions, making them a sovereign duty of each nation. Such a commitment would not only align national goals with the needs of each citizen, but also anchor a long-term strategy for inclusive and sustainable development at the heart of governance. By establishing the High Five as a constitutional principle, African governments would affirm their dedication to collective prosperity and self-reliance, creating a legacy of unified, strategic growth. Adesina's vision, then, is both a roadmap and a call to action, urging leaders, educators, and citizens alike to embrace a future where African resources and potential are fully realized, empowering generations to come. You just listened. SAUTI on Africa Headline, Decoding the Mind of Akinwumi Adesina, a strategic vision for Africa's sustainable transformation.